It's time to get real about shit and have some hard conversations and rip apart topics to make sure we advocate for every angle of that topic. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate, brought to you by DEVi'L. Give your fandom a recharge, and hosted by the uncanny indie devil, Mr. Anderson. Follow all the comics Devil's Tales at MrAnderson.com.
Original music by Unicorn Heads for the YouTube Audio Library. This music is free for you to use on YouTube videos. Find the music in YouTube Audio Library in the Creator Studio. Search Unicorn Heads.
And now on to the topic. The opinions expressed in the following broadcast are not necessarily those of DEVi'L Media LLC, its staff, contributors, or sponsors. Viewer discretion is advised.
Be a pair. Be professional. Be ethical. Be authentic. Be respectful. Remember, in this industry for comics, be a pair. Art provided by Chris Mad. Look up Chris Mad Art on Facebook today. Warning and disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on this live feed are those of the guests, speakers, and or hosts, and do not necessarily reflect the beliefs, official policies, ethics, or positions of the content providers, advertisers, additional hosts, and or guests, hosting sites, groups, or entities attached to this programming. Viewer discretion is advised. And you're joining us live for the Devil's Advocate Fall into Line with the industry standards. All this fall, we're going to be diving into the things that we do in the industry that are supposed to be the standards, talk about why they're a standard, and go back and forth at what really is the standard, as there's some disagreements with that. Tonight's topic is 16 pages a comic book or a flyer? How important are page counts? We're going to get into that. There are going to be so many excuses and so little time, but we have to have civil discourse, of course, which means there are no safe spaces here, only honesty. And all opinions are welcomed and encouraged to be shared. But again, we're going by the pair standard. If you can't be respectful, you're not going to stay long. We'll send out that open link in 1 second. But this program is rated LVMA, all. Every letter and number or numeral that can be put up as a warning, you are now expected to realize we are doing. We're going to introduce the guests who are already here, showing up, already talking to us about this. It's going to be an exciting program. So we got some great guests. Varian, are you there? I don't think Varian's with us. Indie Princess? Okay. JD, we'll go with you right now.
So how you doing, everyone? My name is JD Calderon. I'm the writer and creator of the Oswald Chronicles, currently available on Kickstarter. I got another 2 days left. That's an awesome looking cover. So go check it out. And you can also find me at JD Calderon on Facebook and YouTube.
There he is. That looks like. Are we getting Stone Varian tonight?
I like the hat.
I like that. He looks like police officers. He looks like Super Troopers. When you get pulled over, that's what I would expect Varian to look like if he was a trooper. Your mic's off. Mic's off.
I'm standing by at standards and practices tonight.
Oh, shit. You're going to be using a lot tonight.
Lola and I are standing by.
So,
being watched.
So Lola, are you wearing the mask to not catch anything from Varian? You can be honest. Blink if you're okay.
He's muted also.
No, we can't hear her because of the mask. She actually. I did hear a little bit of her voice. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Officer Grant.
I'm Varian Grant. I founder of DEVi'L Media LLC. DEVi'L has been around for we just celebrated our third year. Very proud of that. Very happy of that. And just pop in tonight to cause some problems and be standards and practices when need be. We're watching. We got our eyes open. We're like Cylons.
Okay, it's a weird reference. Only the nerds in the room got that, and luckily I'm a nerd, so I understood it. Indie Princess, tell us who you are, and tell us about your show on Wednesday nights.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Yes.
Loud and clear.
I'm Lola, the Indie Princess, and I am the co-host of Geekgasm every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. It's a show about everything comics, indie comics, and it's from a female perspective.
Really great show. Make sure you mark that. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and click the notifications. You'll know when DEVi'L goes live. John the Animator's with us. I can't believe John has actually lowered his standards and actually come on my show at night. I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me wearing a T-shirt.
Oh, no.
My standards there.
You're one of the best guests this program has ever seen. Of course, besides Varian and the Indie Princess, but they own it.
There you go. Well, I'm John Celestri, John the Animator, and I've been an animator for 45 years, classical. I animated Boba Fett in the Star Wars Holiday Special, animated on Rock and Rule, on He-Man and She-Ra, also on Dragon's Lair and Space Ace, and Batman commercials. And now I'm launching my own series of John the Animator comics for kids between the ages of 4 to 12. So, that's untapped resources. It's a market that really has to be gone after and cultivated. So I'm kind of like Johnny Appleseed for comics.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and tonight we are, as always, going to open up the door to any creator, though. No fans tonight, guys, because we want this to be industry talk for it. So for the next couple of weeks, you have to have either been creating a comic that we will count. If you are in the middle of the process of your first comic, you will count. You have to either have created, be creating, or part of the creative process. The reason for that is this is all industry talk, and we don't necessarily know what the fans know. We were talking about that behind the scenes. Page counts. Let's get right into it. I literally spent the last 10 years watching people not know what a page count really is. For the argument of this, not argument, but for the purpose of this discussion, we will be counting the cover as part of the page count. The reason for that is it's just simpler. Because some people count, well, there's 18 pages of a book, but then there's 2 interior and there's 2 exterior. And then when you're talking to someone who thinks the covers count, and they're counting the covers as the page count versus the guy who counts the covers as 4 because they're counting the inner covers, everyone gets confused in the room. No one knows what we're talking about. The standard's easier to just count the 4 pages for the cover. And what we're talking about, for those who don't know, right now it's 4 pages is the standard in comics, unless you're doing a newspaper print press. A newspaper print press can do 8 pages and is required that you do 8. So you'd have 8 instead of like 4 books. You could do 4 at a 20. You could do a 16. You do a 12 and an 8. You could do a 4, but that's definitely a flyer. Versus you'd have to do an 18, a 16, a 24, and a
32.
So that already kind of changes things up.
Yeah. Well, standards has always been kind of strange because even in the when it first started, there were 68 pages by your count. So it would be 64 pages plus 4 page covers. So there was a lot more, and it's been dwindling ever since. So.
What's going on? We're joined by creator host Sam Day. Okay, how do you say your last name? So I'm gonna screw it up. I'm tagging you.
The Crazy Man.
There we go. Introduce yourself. Tell the class who you are.
I'm Sam the Crazy Man, host of Cast the Craze podcast, which is a podcast geared towards indie creators in all media, whether it's comic books, music, film, and I also am an independent publisher of comic books.
Very cool. So you didn't hear this possibly because you were still coming in. We are counting the cover as part of page count just for the purpose of this video. Just makes it simpler that we all have the same standard and practice, right, Varian? Standard and practice.
Can I just throw something in? I just can't believe you let this guy in here. Who is this guy? Me and Sam go back away. So, what's up, Sam?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
All right. So John brings up good points because we were talking about this off air. Page counts can be very deceiving. They really can because it comes down to, and this is what the audience doesn't know, and that's why we're not having fans in the room. If you don't know how much it costs to make a comic book, you'll never understand why not every comic book is 32 pages. Plus, you get the fans who are like, well, my Marvel book is 32 pages. Yeah, it's 16 pages of original art, 16 pages of ads. So your comic book isn't exactly a 32-page comic book. It's a half comic book, half catalog for different creations, whether inside the field or not. But I'm going to throw it out there. For you guys, what do you think the bare minimum standard to be called a comic book should be? Someone had told me this year, and I'm not trying to throw shade, but they said 16 pages did not count as a comic book. What do you guys think? Standards and practices varying?
24.
All right, we got 24. Indie Princess, standards and practices.
22 to 24.
JD Calderon.
Well, it's a broad question. It depends who you ask and how you ask it. Some people say the minimum is 8 pages. Some people say it's 32. You understand? It depends where you're at in the business. You understand? If you talk to Scott McCloud, he'll tell you 8 pages is a viable comic, right? So it just depends where you're at.
Okay.
I'm trying not to laugh. Sorry. 32. Hike.
John, the animator.
Yeah, if you're doing crowdfunding, you've got to have at least between 24 and 32 pages of story. Nothing else. You can't count. You can't just slip stuff in. It has to be that, and it has to be not just pinups. You have to really have a solid story, and so 24 to 32 pages, not including cover. Okay, we'll go that way on that. So that's my feeling.
And host Sam.
Yeah, I go with 24 as well.
All right. So my answer, it's going to be a kind of a goofy one. It all depends on how much you're charging me. While we won't be going into pricing comics today necessarily, you can't talk about page counts without the price. Like it was a couple of people brought up during the conversation, even today, when people were on social media. Yeah, you're right, JD. An 8-page comic book would be fine for me to pay $1 for. But if you try to charge me $10 for an 8-page comic, I'm going to slap you because you need to be slapped into reality. Like, no, you need this. I'm helping you. Welcome to Earth. So I do think that pricing has to come into play for some of the conversation we have today. But let me ask you. So here's the question. Varian, you get a book. You backed it on Kickstarter. You're excited. They showed you a couple pages of art. You backed it for $10. You paid the $5 shipping. It comes home. You take it out of the bag. It's done in a Gemini mailer. It's got a board in the bag. You pull it out, and you're like, wait, this doesn't feel right. It's a 16-page comic. What do you do?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. When I buy a comic, it's usually first thing I'm gonna hope is that I really enjoy that comic. I'm gonna hope that I really, really enjoy it. But I don't know. I don't think I'd be that. I don't think I'd be that unhappy with it. I mean, I've told you before on the show. I feel like when I buy an indie comic, I'm buying something that's I know it is not mass produced. I know that it's not. They can't afford to drop it down to $4.99 or whatever. So I expect to pay a little more. 16 pages, on the other hand, it is kind of rough. And that's not including the cover, right?
No, that would be including the cover. That is 16 pages. There are comics out there right now, counting cover, that are 16 pages. I've got.
Yeah, I'd be a little disappointed with that.
And I guess I'm next. I would be pissed. Honestly, I would be pissed, and I would reach out to the creator, and I'd probably have a private conversation that would sound like berating, because I've done it. I've actually done it, and I've said, you should have put this on your campaign. This is bull that you didn't tell people. This should have been a warning, because that's just not enough story. And when you're reading it, it does feel rushed. Now, can you do a story in 16 pages? Sure. Then just lie to me and put like characters, put fan art, put something in it. So at least I feel like you tried to make a standard. But 16 pages, it feels rushed. It feels like you tried to cut a corner. I mean, I had a comic book that I gave out for free that was 16 pages, and I would never think to have charged for it. My bare minimum book was 20 pages, but it was a kid's book. And the reason it was 20 pages, it was for little kids. I wanted less of a story for the little kids. It was like 3 to 5, and it was big. It was a poster book. It was like just a simple comic, and we charged. John, you okay?
I'm here.
I'm
on the show. Yeah, there I am.
Okay.
We're having a storm coming through too.
Sometimes in StreamYard you might not see us, but we can still see and hear you.
Yeah.
Indie Princess, what do you think? You get that 16-page book you've been waiting for. How do you feel? And we'll give them the credit. Let's say the 16-book page is good. It's at least a good story, but it's too short, obviously, because it's only 16 pages.
I would still be a little disappointed because they didn't tell me up front.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. JD?
I would be upset, but primarily with myself, because I make it a point to look for page counts whenever I back a campaign. I mean, I primarily look for hardcovers or trade paperbacks regardless. I don't really like stapled books, even though I produce it myself. But my primary thing is I like hardcovers and I like trade paperbacks. So those are the things I'm primarily looking for. So yeah, if I got a 16-page book and I paid $15-20 for it, yeah, I'd be a little salty.
Okay, so we've learned that JD likes it hard. Randy, how do you feel about this?
Like you said, if it's free, then the page count doesn't matter. If I'm paying for it, then it should be a whole. I should get a lot of story.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So that means 28 pages, 32, 64. It's all good.
All right, John the Animator.
First thing I won't crowdfund anything that I don't know what the page count is, because that means they're telling me that it's not my responsibility to go and pull that information out of the crowdfunder. So if I don't know what it is, I'm not going to pay for it. I'm not going to support it, and that's basically it.
Now, go ahead, John. Sorry, you kicked out for. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm going to say continue that. Yeah, as I said, 24 pages of solid story, not including the cover, because that's basically what you had, say, in the early Marvel stuff. Any one of those Fantastic Four stories from the first 10 issues on, there is solid 24 pages of complete story. And if you can't tell a story that's as filled as that, then you got to go back and learn how to tell a story in those 24 pages. That's my criteria.
Fair enough. Sam, you said that you actually helped publish the books. Do you have a bare minimum requirement?
Oh yeah. Well, basically, I go back to what the Indie Princess said. If the creator's being honest from jump and saying, hey, this is a 16-page book, it's a preview to a series that we're developing, and it's not just 16 pages of story, but there's also bios and character, profiles and all that other stuff. So you're getting something more to it. So you're getting a preview to the book, you're getting to know the characters, you're getting some information. Then I'm cool with that. But as long as they're upfront and honest with it. Yes, we either do 24 to 32 page comic books that I do myself.
All right. So now the question has to be: are you guys willing to pay more to a creator on Kickstarter? Even if they have, let's say, a 20-page book, would you pay $10 for their 20-page book, knowing that you're helping them on Kickstarter and crowdfunding?
Who's that question for?
Oh, well, that's you. We're starting with you, Dan, because
okay.
we still have you on the hot seat, and then we'll go around.
If I'm find the concept appealing, it all depends on the story and the concept. If I feel like I like the direction they're going with this, and it seems like something I'm willing to support, I'll do it. But it not just any. It would have to be something that sticks out to me.
Fair enough. We'll go with John.
Yeah, if I'm going to support the artist, then yeah, I'm there to support the artist and not just the book. That's and that's a conscious commitment on my part.
All right, that makes sense. Randy, are you willing to invest more in a creator on crowdfunding? Should stop saying Kickstarter as a crowdfunding word. Mm-hmm. It's a really bad habit I've picked up. It's like Xerox. I mean a copy, but I call it a Xerox. So on crowdfunding, Randy, are you willing to pay more to support a creator that's up and coming or trying to keep things up? Because again, crowdfunding is meant to help these creators create their projects. It's not just about selling it from a store. It is actually trying to be crowdfunding.
I admit I have a very difficult time laying down $10 for anything that's under 32 pages, and I have yet to do that personally in order to justify that cost. But I also prefer reading larger stories, graphic novels, which I'm not afraid to lay down $25 to $50 for, depending upon the quality of the work.
JD, you're on the hot seat.
It depends. I mean, if it's a friend of mine, you know, I'll drop it. If it's but I'd have to really like the project to back it at that price.
Princess? And no, I'm
I
not
pretty much agree with everybody else. It just depends on the book and the creator that's creating it.
I'll help out a creator, but I have to believe in their passion. Honestly, that's usually what'll sell me. If I can believe in your passion, I'll do it. A lot of times I try to buy the PDF if it's not too expensive. I hate people who charge like $7 for a PDF. I don't think you should do that. PDFs should not be priced that high. If you have your PDF, I'll buy it from you. If I like it, I'll buy your book in person, unless you really need the money to get to the finish line. Usually I'll try PDFs because I have so many people that I cover. I try to give everyone as much as I can because I still have rent and food that I need. I like to eat and I like to live in a shelter, so can't do everyone. Super Trooper variant.
I agree with JD. It's a friend of mine. I'm gonna try to support him. You know, and I think I said it earlier. I've tricked myself into saying, okay, this is an indie comic. I know I'm gonna pay a little bit more. It's probably a bad like idea to have, but I just feel that I'm gonna pay more, and I'm supposed to pay more. Now I don't price my books that way.
Well, how do you price your books then? Give us an example.
I don't have a single book over $5.
Somebody.
I did have a trade for a while. It was the first 3 stories that was over $5. That was like, I think we were asking 10 for it. Yeah. So it was like you got a book free.
Well, that makes sense. All right. Standards and practices variant. Do you want to bring up the comments that are approved? This will be cool. We'll have the approved comments that we can ruin by standards. I mean, standard. Yeah. Completely follow standards and practice.
I gotta go back all the way to the top. I was corrected. The Cylons have no eyes. Cylons have no eyes. But Meredith says, looking forward to this conversation. They started talking about your 24 book. Your page counts. 24 books. Bare minimum 22 interior pages, says James Sims. Daphne, we know her. She says, I'm surprised I didn't have that happen to me so far, considering how many Kickstarters didn't mention page counts anywhere in the campaign.
Well, let's stop right there, because that's a good point I saw from Daphne. And now that it's been approved by standards and practices, we can examine it. Do you guys think that should be I've argued that I think that should be a mandatory thing, that Kickstarter should build it in, where they have to admit the bare minimum. Now, if you want to add pages, fine, God bless you. But bare minimum, you have to hit this as a literal standard. Like, it's false advertising if you don't hit it. What do you guys think about doing something like that? Do you think that's necessary? We'll go with Super Trooper variant.
Yeah, it's nice, but it'll never happen. They'll never interfere that far into the business. So, if you want to put out a 4-page book and people are going to pay $80 for it, then more power to you. They'll never get involved that far. I mean, I don't see that happening. People may ask for it, and I think it's right to put a page count in your campaign, but I don't think they'll ever get involved as a company, either of them.
We'll give the floor to the Indie Princess.
I pretty much agree with Varian on what he said. That's not going to happen, but if you do a crowdfunding campaign, you should put how many pages is there so people can see it. They shouldn't have to search for it.
The representative from Queens, JD.
Yeah, I agree. There should be a page count in there. And it's funny because I've done so many of these, I sometimes forget to put the page count in. But, I only do 24, 32, and 40-page books. So, everybody knows they're going to get a decent-sized book out of me.
The monkey creator, Randy.
Sorry, JD, how much do you charge for your book?
Depends. It depends. Well, right now, on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, they're usually about $10 per book.
Oh.
Yeah,
No,
I know. It gets heavy.
Go ahead.
Well, because what it is I charge between, even if it's a 24-page book or 48-page book, I'll charge the same price.
I hear you. I like to know the page count because I like to know how thick the book is when I purchase it, just out of curiosity. But it's also because it's a crowdfunding book. I'm paying postage on it as well. So sending one floppy through the mail is a little exorbitant.
Mhm.
So call me a tightwad if you want. I just have a rough time doing that. You almost have to have a whole package, or you expect a whole package when you're ordering something like that through crowdfunding.
John, the animator, what do you think?
Yeah, well, that's the way I looked at it. And so when I'm doing, like say, with my crowdfunder with Indiegogo right now, I made sure that each one of the perks, the levels, have at least two books in them, so that it come to at least about 40 to 48 pages of material, to get that perk. So, I agree with Randy in that I just can't see, paying $10 for 20 pages. It's just, it's like, put more effort into it. At least give me something else. Give me 20 pages of story and maybe another 20 or pages of sketches that showed me how you came up with this idea. Developmental material. You can do that if it's So that's what I think is the best way to at least not pad it in, but actually show what your thought process is in. So that's my way of saying, okay, I'll support you because I'm seeing something from you. So.
All right, before I pass it on to Sam, I just want to say this has become one of my favorite devil's advocates because we've talked about how important it is that it's hard, thick, and that people are padding their books. Go ahead, Sam, talk to him.
I agree with John, the animator. I think there should be a minimum of 24, especially if you're raising money. If you're doing anything less, save it for the conventions, and do something on your own as a preview and something at the conventions, unless you're going to create some sort of history book saying, you know what, it is a preview book, plus you have history, like John was saying, and you have sketches, and you have that timeline on how you develop the characters, and so people can see your process, something that someone could take away from, a novice creator can learn from, give something back. So this way, there's something for everybody. But I think standard should be 24 pages at minimum, and the bonus, make it, add some content into it in the back. I've always believed in adding character profiles and sketches and thumbnails and all that stuff in especially in the first issue, so that people can see that process.
Sorry about that. I was muted because Jackson's running around. All right. Standards and practices are in charge of the door, but the link is there. Make sure you brought your ID, and the bouncer, Randy, will either let you in or out. It's his call, not mine tonight. So the link is there, though. If you guys want to join us, we're going to stop answering some questions in a few minutes and go to more of an open format conversation about this. But back to standards and practices, picking our questions for the evening. Super Trooper Varian, what's our next question or comment?
Just going on the line here. We got Meredith says, I think I'd rather see a really good 16-page story before a 32-page story that is broadened for the sake of hitting a higher price.
Well, have you guys actually ever, I'll be honest, I've never seen a creator try to draw out their story for a higher page count. And that's a lot to do with the printing price. I think most creators are trying to land it sooner because you're paying per page, Meredith. In our industry, you don't see a lot of people stretching, well, outside of trying to fill up to 32 pages where you would see, like we're talking about, character profiles, trading cards, ads for internal, like for me, if I have an extra page to make it to 32, between 32 and a 36-page book, and I'm at 33, I won't cut a page. I'll add 3 more just to get to 36. I don't care. Most creators will go back and try to cut the credits page into the bottom and try to save that money. So I don't see that being a problem. We'll go in the reverse this way. Sam, Do you see that as a problem? Because you're a publisher. I'm actually curious what you have to say about that.
I believe 100% starting at 24. I've done 16-page preview books, but that preview book, it was a 32-page book because it had history, it had bios, it had character profile, character designs, summaries. I believe that you should walk away with something in your hand, and just to have a 16-page floppy is not enough. So I just put some content into it, get people talking about it, get them interested in it. And I've been when I first done 16-page books years ago, they're really 32-page books, but because of the content and the history, they came back for the first issue, and they always started at issue 0. So I call it those 16-page books were issue 0 for me. They're like an ash can saying this is issue 0. This you'll get the history, you'll get to know the characters in the world, and then you make the decision if you want to pick up the first actual issue.
Now, for those 16-page previews, what was your price point?
Well, they weren't on Kickstarter, so I'm a novice to Kickstarter, and JD Calderon has been schooling me on the art of crowdfunding. And yes, we will be launching our first Kickstarter in a couple of weeks. So all of my books before came out of pocket.
Well, that's fine. What's your table cost on a preview book then?
$3. They were $3, but it was 32-page books. So you got 16 pages of story and art, then you got 16 pages of bios, profiles, character designs, and the process.
Now we're being joined by Joe. I don't know if you've been monitoring the question. The question we're currently talking about was Meredith's question below. I think I'd rather see a really good 16-page story before a 32-page story that is broadened for the sake of hitting a higher price point. Do you believe that have you noticed any creator trying to expand to make their books bigger and their story has suffered for it? And this is, of course, it's very hard to determine that's why they made it 32 pages. I've read some bad 32-page books, but they were bad from page 1 all the way through 32. I don't think that the extra pages hurt or helped it. I think it was just a bad story. What do you think, Joe?
To be quite honest, what I truly think is I don't believe in padding story, to be quite honest. It's like I'd rather have one succinct story throughout the whole issue instead of having like 16 pages and then an add-on afterwards, like an afterthought to pad on to that story. I'd rather for it to be a complete flow from beginning to end. But I have not seen anybody that bumped their comic book up to 32 pages just for a higher price point, to be quite honest.
John?
Well, with Mega Moose, I've got a 32-page book. What I did was I have 2 stories in it, 2 complete stories. They do connect. They are related in many ways, but each one could be read separately. But that gave me 28 pages of story, a 12 pager and a 16 pager. And then the cover material had even more information. So there's a 32 page there. I would rather have 2 good stories and put them together and give me the 32 pages that way. To me, if depending upon what kind of characters and how well you know the characters and what your styling is, so that's how I approach it. Yeah.
The representative from Monkeyland, Randy.
Did you run your warning at the start of the program?
Yes, I actually ran.
I'm sorry I came in late because, in my opinion, if you haven't read any stretched out stories lately, you haven't been reading anything in the mainstream. So I've read some Bronze Age and Silver Age stories that are 17 pages long that are as good, if not better, than a lot of the collected recent works from the big 2. So the page count kind of fluctuates with the availability of storytelling, and should you pad your story should you pad out a story in order to get a larger page count? I think that all depends upon the product. Some things need to breathe and some things don't. Most superhero stories probably don't, depending upon the character and the story itself. I've read some incredibly awesome spirit sections by Will Eisner that are 7 pages that are bigger than any 6-issue story that you see from anybody nowadays, especially. You know, the story should be as long as it should be, according to the artist. But again, the artist and writer shouldn't be padding if it doesn't need it. But sometimes they have to, sometimes they can't, you know.
If I jump in, that's really the hat. That's the artistic hat. If you're crowdfunding, you wear more than one hat, and the hat that's the publisher's hat, the editor's hat, has to understand that the reader, the customer, has to be satisfied.
That's very true.
You know, and so therefore, I don't know that there are enough people doing crowdfunding who think in those terms. I know they want to raise their money. I know they want to get stuff so that they can keep on going, but they have to understand that for every bad piece of product that's out there that is successfully funded, it just hurts everybody else.
It definitely does. And the worst thing that you can possibly do in a book, and I've seen it so many times over and over again, is to print a book and have blank pages in the back. Oh, it drives me crazy.
That's crazy. Now, that can also be a printing error for the by the printer itself. I've seen Amazon do that. A lot of Amazon books have that, where the creator themselves do not realize that they don't print in a 4-page clip. They're actually printing, I think, in an 8-page clip, and that's the issue that they're having. So I've noticed that a lot on Amazon. If you read it, you'll notice that. If you're going to a regular standard printer, though, there's no excuse for it. There's not even an excuse for Amazon.
No, there isn't, because a wasted page is a wasted opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree with Randy, but at least I'm giving you guys at least a heads up. Amazon, that does happen a lot. I see it. Mm-hmm. So be careful and mindful of that. JD.
I believe in editing to the bone. So, when you edit the, to hit the meat. So, I mean, you gotta, your story has to be strong. So I don't believe in padding. You understand? It's not necessary. If you can't make 24 pages or 32 pages, you can always add a short. You can always do a short, and just throw it in there, and if you need those extra 2 pages, you could throw in, a pin-up or whatever. But I don't know. I've never seen anyone pad. I've seen shorts and I've seen pinups, and I prefer it that way.
The delegate from the land of Indie Princess here, Lindy, Indie Princess herself.
I really don't have anything to comment on this one. I kind of agree with everyone that's already went.
And final, but least but not final, or whatever that's supposed to be, the Super Trooper Randy. Variant. Damn, I'm like, am I drinking like vodka in here? I don't even know anymore. It's the glasses. I feel like I've been told.
I just want you to repeat the last half of the question.
What's that?
I want you to repeat the last half of the question.
Oh, wait. Yeah. No. Damn it. I don't remember the exact wording. There we go. Story that is broadened for the sake of hitting a higher price point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very like if the book was good at like 18, 19 pages, and then after that it fell. It was like just a slow descent into mediocrity. Then I'd be a little upset. But at the same time, I understand that because there is a bit of a pressure on you now to make a book as long, if not longer, than the other books in your price range.
That's a great question. Continue, and then we're going to hit that. That's a good thing you just brought up.
Yeah, I just think there's, oh man, Joe Schmo did a 32-page book, and he's charging $8 for it online. And I was gonna do $8 at 24 pages. What do I do? Like you said, you could put in sketches. You could put in, maybe a bit of the script. I don't know if that really works for comics, but I've got books with the script in them too. So, but you could put some extra stuff in there, and at least on crowdfunding, if you do that, you might be able to throw some stretch goal stuff in there as well to sweeten that price on the 16-page book.
Those who got one of the first books I ever did, Fetish Babies, which is now Barber Unleashed, they got a part of a script for the next issue.
Yes.
They actually got something good. But that was an interesting point you brought up. And this also will go to the price one that we're going to have in a few weeks. We won't have them back to back. They'll be a few weeks apart. But do you guys feel pressure to hit a certain number of pages? Not me. Most of my books have been 32, if not 36. So I don't feel any pressure, to be honest with you, to hit any higher number count. I just will never go below a 20-page book. More than likely, my lowest will be 24 outside of the Jack's book. But what about you guys? Varian, do you feel that? We'll start back with you. And then if you guys want, we'll just let anyone who wants to jump in on these start jumping in, so we don't have to go around the room. We'll just do the raising hands so we can see who wants to go, so that we're not talking over each other. But Varian, kick it off. Do you feel that pressure? I mean, you're also a publisher. So do you feel like, damn, we got to make this competitive?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be the guy sitting at the table with, or sitting at a con, with, a small book, and the guy next to me has his tome and he's asking $8 for it. I don't want to be that guy. So there is a bit of pressure. I need to make sure that I'm giving the customer that value. Plus, I don't want to sell a book that I'm not, that I wouldn't buy myself. If I pick up a 16-page book, I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. It was like 6 pages worth of story, maybe less than that. From Buddy, I paid $12 for that book, and it was they considered it an ash can. It was stiff. It was more like it was printed in such a way that it could actually pretty much lay flat. Like there was no bump in it. It was just, it was like a pancake. But I wanted to support them, and I did.
All right. Anyone else want to jump in here? Don't be shy. Just raise your hand. So I know
you can't use it. I mean, you can't think of the least of what you're offering. I mean, we're talking about the indie market, and indie market has to be at least as professional as what you remembered growing up. Seeing. I mean, that's the whole idea of being an indie. Is not just to milk the audience. You're doing something because you want to move forward. You want to create something that you could be proud of. So if you could be proud of an 8-page pamphlet that you could use as a coaster or to mop up a mess on the counter, well then, why are you doing this? So I think that everybody who at least starts with their first crowdfunding should be at least at the 24-page, and I mean, I'll say the 28-page thing, including the cover, because that cover has got to have meat on it. And so, if you're not doing that, then you're not offering anything, because then if you succeed in your first crowdfunder, then you can at least offer those back issue as part of the next deal. I mean, you're not creating that. I mean, everybody's pouring a lot of blood and sweat into the pages, and that counts for a lot of the value of what you're giving. So, I think it's a matter of just, if you don't have any pride in what you're doing, then it's just going to reflect badly on everybody else, because everybody will think that you're conning them.
Fair enough. Anyone else want to jump in?
Yeah, well, I would add a little bit more. I don't think it should be 28 plus a cover. It should be 32 plus a cover.
Yeah. Okay.
For me, for the longest time, a 32-page interior is a 32-page comic.
Right.
Okay. The cover is a cover. It's a totally separate thing. That only came out in digital. When you do offset, they don't even count it. It's a 32-page book plus cover.
Not actually true. There are people who do count them as the same page count. That, just for the record, because I like to be informational for this. Check with your printer, because some count all pages, some count them differently. So it is important you ask your printer. Don't make those mistakes, because that's where you win pages.
If you're doing same cover, typically, you know what I mean. You're doing self cover.
I've had it where we printed a different page and they still counted it for some reason. I disagree. I think it should have been counted differently. I adapted this system based upon printers and the fact that it confuses people. Because when you're talking to a fan and you say, well, it's 32 interior pages and 4 cover pages, they're like, you have 4 covers? And I've seen the wheels start going, why do you have 4? I just want the one comic book. And it confuses. We have to learn as an industry how we can talk to our fans and stop trying to act like the wizard behind the curtain in Wizard of Oz. And we have to use terminology that people can instantly identify. That's why I argue counting the cover, they're going to be okay with that. Reversing the other way where you will say, oh, plus 4 for covers. Wait a minute, why do you have 4 covers? And literal question I've seen asked at a show. And that's why I have changed, because I do a lot of shows and I talk to a lot of fans. And I want to have a conversation with my fans that they can always understand where I'm coming from. I don't want to use any confusing language. And my books were magazine size at one point. I get stronger covers. Like, I put real quality into my books. And I talk about that quality. And I talk about, a lot of times, my book is 32 pages. That Marvel book right over there is 32 pages. Mine doesn't have 16 pages of ads. So you're getting 2 comic books for the price of their one $3.99 book. So it also becomes a selling point if you know what you're doing. So I'm going to mute now because Jax is going crazy. Someone else take the floor. Randy, I can't see if you're raising your hand. So if you want to jump in, go ahead and jump in.
No, I can jump in. Most professional printers treat the interior and the exterior as 2 separate print jobs because it's normally 2 separate types of paper. So they'll list it 32 interior plus 4-page cover. So, and I think there needs to be an industry standard, absolutely. But Rob is right. There's not one right now because everybody, especially when they're talking at a show, are going to go, oh, that's a 36-page book. And it's actually a 32 interior plus a cover.
Yeah. And for those listening on the radio, just so you know what we mean by the cover is usually the front cover, the back cover, and the 2 interiors. They are not 4 covers again. And the reason the front and back cover, and I'm going to mute again so I can yell at him. The front and back covers are usually what you'll have an ad on the back for something or a coming attraction for your next book. And the front cover, obviously, is your front cover. So I just wanted to clarify that. If no one else wants to jump in, I
kind of off camera. No, but I feel no pressure whatsoever as far as page count, and this is coming from a person who does a 52-page book called Primetime Saturday Night, which is a full wrestling card because it's awfully hard to do anywhere between 5 to 6 matches in a 24 to 32 page area. Now, people always criticize me for my price point because I price it way below what a normal 52-page book would be. I do it as a $5 printed book. You know, that to me seems kind of fair considering that, you know, most of the artwork is done in 3D. So it's kind of like I'm in one way I'm cutting out the middleman to save my customers a lot more money for a 52-page book. But in the long run, I feel no pressure between, you know, doing my 24-page Amazonia book to that 52-page Primetime Saturday Night book. I feel no pressure whatsoever. It depends upon the story that you're telling. If you don't believe in the story that you're telling in those amount of pages, then it's not worth, you know, doing it. You might as well think about doing something else at that point. Maybe doing it as an anthology or a collection of stories. It's just, you know, something to think about in that aspect.
So my question for you is, are you printing offset or are you printing digital?
Mostly digital, print on demand.
Okay. Because is it full color?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Because all right, I need to find out your printer because by the sounds of it, you got a really good deal.
No, I'm not getting a really good deal because I don't make on the Primetime Saturday Night. I don't make too much money for printed copies.
Okay,
At best, I may make maybe $1.05 per issue that I sell.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Because it's expensive. I mean, printing digital. Yeah. Gotcha.
And Super Trooper, what's our next question? John, were you going to say something while he finds it?
Yeah, I was just going to ask Mr. Joe. It's full color.
Yes.
Okay.
Thomas Ryan says, so let's say I had a production issue and I send you the 16-pager you pay for plus an additional 16-pager containing the same story free. pretty much is 2 16 pages better than one.
Wait a minute, are you sending me the same story? Because that sounds like, let's say I had a production issue and I send you the 16-pager you paid for plus an additional. It sounds like there was a production issue, so you give me the same story twice. Thomas, if you're still listening, you're going to have to clarify that, because am I the only one who's seeing it that way? Because if anyone sees it differently,
What? I'm wondering if it's 16 pages of the first half of that issue and the 16 pages of the last half.
That's how I'm taking.
Yeah. Because I don't think he's saying like either he's saying I had a production issue or I have a production issue.
Pay for plus an additional 16, continuing the same story.
because I mean, if you're going to give more pages, no one's going to bitch you. And there's not one person out there who will like, excuse me, this book's too big. You've given me too much, sir. I cannot handle this. You take back these 16 pages and you make me pay for these 16 pages. I just don't see it. So Thomas, please clarify that a bit, so we can go back over it. Varian?
Okay. Pop says that he only backs the ones he thinks he'll enjoy as long as he can afford it. Cost is a big thing for the fans too. We gotta think about that. C. Michael Lanning says, in a way to pull off a 16-page book, it almost has to follow the same rules of a short story, which is harder than even a novel. The question is, can it be a fulfilling story in 16 pages? I think it can. I think I've told a story before where I picked up a small book at Wizard where a guy had taken he made Kinko's copies basically and folded it over and cut it and was giving the books out for $1. And that was a really good comic that I read. I unfortunately he didn't put any of his contact information or his name on it, but.
And also, I want, if you're done, Varian, I just want to cover this real quick. C. Michael, thank you for, of course, writing in. And do we have radio numbers tonight, Varian? By the way, I want to add to this.
I do not. There's been some type of issue going on.
We're having some butt issues today. I just loved it.
Yeah, there's some.
So much fun. Just say it. We're having what?
Yeah, well, no, it's not that. I wish it was. That'd be easy. It's just this looks like a server issue on their side. But.
Oh, that's no fun. That means we might not actually be live with our fans.
Yeah. We'll
find out later. Anyway, listen, dude, I can tell a story in 2 pages. You give me 2 pages and I can tell you a story. Telling a story doesn't always need a lot of pages. I think your question should be for what you're paying is their value. I think that's the point we've all been trying to make today. Was you can, I mean, again, to Randy's point, you were talking about, and John, you had mentioned this too in the chat earlier on my profile, right? The shadow stories.
Well, it was the Will Eisner stories. They're all 7 pages. If you had a 16-page Will Eisner story, and the thing about it is that the way the stories were told on the panels, they weren't just 3 panels per page or 4 panels per page or 6 panels. He moved it around. You had 9 panels of page. You were, and they were all really, really solid drawings, and there was no confusion. There was great pacing. There was a lot of snappy dialogue. Everything is all there. So a 16-page Will Eisner story will be, and you did that with 24 pages. I mean, you get your money's worth, right there. But you have to have talent, which is a big. That's the element that's missing from a lot of this, is the fact that you have to have the talent to do both and deliver. And with crowdfunding, it's a lot of people who are trying to develop their abilities, but that's the whole idea. Are you pointing to me?
Yeah, clip the video right now at 54 minutes. John just called all you artists lazy. He said that you're trying to get around it. You're not making enough panels. I love it. I agree with John. I do miss that because I do tell artists I work with, hey, I want to do 9 panels. And they're like, you can't do 9 panels. I'm like, have you read a comic? Like, I'm just asking, have you ever read a comic? Because I've seen a lot of 9 panels. If you don't have a lot of talking with the facial expression, you could try to show emotion in it. There's so much beauty that you can do that the modern artists aren't trying to do because they want bigger and prettier and they want splash pages. I can't.
You cannot compete. Comic books cannot compete with the widescreen theatrical special effects. So therefore, go back to do what comics can do. simplify, and make every slice of cake a mouthful, just rich and tasty. And with that, I gotta go. I'm gonna.
Thank you for being on. Before you go, tell them how they can find your Kickstarter. I mean,
I'm on Indiegogo. It's John the Animator Comics, and just click in John the Animator Comics and John Celestri. Thanks a lot. It's been a pleasure.
We should point out.
Sayonara. Take care, guys. I'll see you mañana, maybe.
We should point out that John the Animator currently has a campaign running right now on Indiegogo that honestly deserves everyone's attention.
And sharing. If you see it, sharing. Go read that. Go read that campaign and see why you owe him something. If you're a fan of 80s cartoons, you owe this man at least a share. At least. The least you can do is share this damn project. So go do it after the show, of course, because they have to finish watching.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, guys.
John, seeing you.
All right.
Take care.
Have a good night, John.
We'll see you.
All right, Sam, you've been too quiet, so now you have to answer right now. I see you. Attention. He doesn't know the question anymore. He's panicking. He's panicking, folks.
What was the question again? He got me.
It was a production issue. Was that it?
Yeah, we were talking about the production issue.
I think passion and heart shines through, and I think people will see it. And I think if you look, the story will dictate itself if you love what you do, and it'll determine whether it's 32 pages or more. If you just let it flow, the characters are going to speak to you, and they're going to say exactly how and where they want to go in that story. And it's your job as the director to facilitate that information and make sure that they all have life and heart. And I think people will see that. It'll shine through. Put your best foot forward. Don't worry. Don't start off worried about page count. Don't worry about anything else. Worry about the story and let it evolve and flow. And then when you have that finished product, then you can say, all right, where do I go with this? But put all your information into the characters and the heart, the story.
Amen. All right. So standards and practices varying. The Super Trooper. What is our next comment or question?
Michael C. Lanning said Silverline Comics did that with the last couple of Kickstarters. They did, and they came out well. One way, one comic, and the second one the other. Those were 48 pages, I think.
Over-delivering is always an awesome thing. If you can over-deliver, do it every time. If you're in a position where you can do more for your fans, let me tell you, when I ship things out, I try to throw stickers in. I try to if I got a couple extra copies of something and they've been supporting me, show these people, especially on crowdfunding, show them love and support. Bag your books, use the Gemini mailer. Do right by these people who are supporting you every single time. Super Trooper variant, do you agree?
I concur. No, they need to actually, it would be good to see a little more quality.
Great for custom mailers too. Great for customized mailers too. That goes a long way because people will remember, hey, I backed this type of stuff. I backed Amazon and it came in a customized bag.
Yeah.
I like
inside, that. Inside you could, it's large enough to put it in a Gemini mailer and everything too. So you have to spend the extra money to be more professional.
Yeah,
all that stuff comes into play.
These people will follow you throughout your career if you treat them well enough. I mean, I'm sure JD's he knows the 10 guys who will back every campaign because JD's taking care of them. He's making sure to bag his stuff, ship it out. He's got his scale set up. He's like, I'm going to the post office today. Here we go. This is going out. He kisses it on the way out. Those lipstick marks on the actual box are JD's. If you didn't know, trace them and then have it tattooed on you. He's gonna be so mad at me. No lips of his go on anyone else but me.
No, but I do touch all those books though, and I mean, I sign them all, and I bag them all. I put in. I have tons of stuff I throw in there. I had a printer did a special thing where he was like giving away 11 by 17 prints. So I printed up like 4 quarters on each one. I had him chop them up, and I made them into little prints, and I just throw all those into everybody gets a couple of prints, for each book, and so I've been doing that for at least the last 6-7 campaigns.
That's fantastic. All right, anyone else have anything to chime in on that one, or can we go to the Super Trooper for the next question? All All right, Super Trooper, variant.
I always add a page where I was Rodney Lockett. I always add a page where I show other indie publishers comic covers and let them know where they can pick them up at. Plus, I don't charge to do that.
Hell no! What's wrong with you, Rodney? Don't make us look bad. No, you don't get to do that, Rodney. Don't try to make everyone in this room look bad. No, Rodney, stop it now. No, I mean that's cool, dude. If that's what you want to do, rock out, man.
What did Rodney do to you?
Page where I'm selling the ad space, man. He's trying to make
again. That's what the inside interior covers are for.
What's to be selling that? That's my money maker.
To me, that's the best spot for it is the back interior cover.
Yeah, Celestri
advertiser space is like you get through with the story, you get to show them what other stuff is available.
And Cialis, yes, you can be in the next Barbara Unleashed comic. Right money for the right money. See, JD got the joke. But what do you guys think? Is it a good thing to promote your competition randomly? Would that be something you're actually comfortable with? I do it because I put in Indie Advocates. The next time I publish it, if I have the space, I'll put DEVi'L in there. On that page, we'll do the trifecta, the trinity of advocating. So I don't care. I do the same thing like Rodney because I put Indie Advocates. Instead of choosing one person, which we're now comic book advocates, back in the day it was Indie Advocates I was putting in, to be clear, I would put that to advocate for all the other creators that weren't me. So what do you think?
I mean, I look at it like this. I don't consider my other creators my my competition. You understand? I mean, if I put somebody in, I'm putting them in because I like their work or I like them. You understand? So I want to see my friends succeed. So that's the reason I put them in. And doing this sort of thing, interviewing as many people as I've interviewed over the last few months, there are plenty of folks I'd want to put in there. And what's funny? I haven't really considered in the past, but I'm actually going to start considering. I'm going to start talking to people to start advertising their books in my books. And maybe we can cross promote that way. I'll give you an ad, you give me an ad, blah blah blah, and we move forward from there.
And to quote Tupac, just because you've lost me as a friend doesn't mean you gained me as an enemy. I'm bigger than that. I still want to see you eat, just not at my table. This is a mentality that we have to have. We're not competition. Again, from Black Panther, in a time of crisis, the wise build bridges while the foolish build barriers. We must find a way to look after one another as if we are one single tribe. And Rodney's doing that. Rodney's out there, like, by example, giving a page up. And he's paying for that page to advertise for other people. So my hat goes off to you, good sir. My hat goes off to you. Anyone else want to touch that, or should we go to Super Trooper variant for the next one?
No, like I said before, I have done that with the back covers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because that's the perfect spot for it. In my point of view, it's like if you have a buddy or two that needs, and even I have to admit this, not certain if you guys know Kevin Parent, but I had actually bought advertising space in a book that he had ran through on Diamond. So that stuff does happen. There is not a need to look at it as competition, but it's pretty much an opportunity that is wasted a lot of times when people just don't communicate with one another. So I'm just saying that as a whole.
And before we do move on, Varian, you can pick up the next question. Before we do that, we have to stop and acknowledge Randy in the room. Randy did the Flint newspaper. For how long? 5 years, was it, Randy?
Is it 100 issues?
I think it was the bathroom.
It was 10 years, and it was advertiser supported. I mean, he had a lot of advertisers in that magazine, not magazine, but newspaper. A lot of I was one of the first times I got a chance to do a comic strip. Be printed on that dreaded newsprint.
Newsprint is wonderful.
Since Randy's not in the room, tell us exactly what it was for our listeners.
Well, again, it was an advertiser-supported paper Randy did, which they put in the Genesee County area, Flint. I think they went up as far as tip of the thumb, I believe, is in Michigan we always talk about the state like it is a hand. The tip of the thumb. But he took that paper, ran for 10 years. A lot of cool things in there. A lot of pieces about them that was happening around coverage of cons. They always had a celebrity in there. local artists did strips. Randy would mix those in with strips that he had licensed, like he was the James Bond, the Judge Dredd from the UK. In fact, he tells that when you license those from the syndicate, a lot of times when you license them, like the old Bond stuff, he said he had to actually kind of go in sometimes and edit it because the women would have bikinis on it. Oh, you can't have this in there. Some mad mom will see it and get pissed. But that paper was free, and he put it in these red boxes all over the city.
And how many careers must he have helped move along, if not start, by doing such a thing? You know, I wish he was here to talk about it right now.
I mean, paper went on for 10 years, and he only really, I personally think he'd have still been doing it. Had the Flint water crisis when that started, it killed the support, it killed a lot of the advertising dollars up there. So,
what did you need to know?
We're talking about the Flint paper.
Okay. Yeah, you advertised for other creators through that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, that's really part of the reward of working in the paper, was the fact that everybody in the area got to see their work, and I also gave them a free table at the convention every year, every 6 months, whenever we ran them.
Nice.
So, well, I couldn't, I wasn't paying a regular fee, so a lot of the material we were running was material that they had already used in the direct market or on the web or whatever. And I was really, honored to be able to print a lot of their work. I was very picky about finding as many local people and as many really, quality, talented people as possible. We ran Matt Fazell and Emily Zelasco and some weirdo named Varian Grant here every once in a while. We ran, and Dan Doherty we ran. There's just a ton of local folks, as well as and they were all intermixed with a bunch of syndicated strips, some public domain stuff, some we usually tried to run one comic story every issue. So, and it was all advertiser supported, and we gave it away for free.
So that's a wonderful thing that I don't think people even knew that you did. And I'm so sad.
The comic market wouldn't acknowledge it anyway, the direct market, because the media sites didn't want to admit that there were other ways of getting comics out there. We also ran advertising from every comic shop in a 50-mile radius to our location, so that folks knew where they can pick up comics. So I had a lot of real positive response off of that paper from the comic shops and the retailers.
And is there any way for anyone to get those? Like, is there a way that you could they could buy them from you now, or get them from you?
No. Anybody that wants to see them are more than welcome to contact me. I'll be real happy. In fact, I'm a little late in sending out a couple of packages to folks that I promised to show samples of the paper to. I've still got quite a few, not even quite a few. I've got a few copies left of most of the issues. But only a few. We would print up 10,000. We'd circulate them to about 275, 300 different locations. I had a whole series of red newspaper boxes around town, plus anywhere I had a distributor that would drop off anywhere where you give away those free magazines, the Natural Awakenings, the Real Estate Monthlies, the Auto Trader books, that kind of stuff. So we always had the second shelf, and all of the covers were super bright. We still have a page up on Facebook where I've got the majority of the covers in albums. If anybody wants to take a look, they're more than welcome to pop over there and look. And if you scroll down on the timeline, granted, we haven't been out for a year, but the paper gathered such a fanatical response in the area. I ran an ad for my commercial business inside of every issue, and people took to it. My time was gone. Half of the time I was running late because I was doing commercial work off of people calling off of the ad. And I mean, late getting the book to the printer. Luckily, our printer, it was only a newsprint paper that was folded, quarter folded is what they call this. It came out the same size as a regular magazine. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it would fit into a comic magazine bag real easily. Very easy to store. The comic shops already had the storage capabilities for the paper for anybody that wanted to collect it, and there were a lot of people in the area that did. But it got to be so fanatical that I had people calling me if I was a day late asking where the paper was. I'd get a call and I'd pick up and say, hello, or this is Randy. And they'd go, where's the paper? That's exactly what they'd say. I'd say, who is this? And they'd go, don't worry about me. Where's the paper? So on the Facebook page, if you scroll down, a couple years back, you'll see me announcing the paper's in production, the paper's out of production. It's going to the printer. It's going to the printer. It's going to be at the distributor. The distributor has it now, and it'll be on the streets the next day. Find a copy, and thank you for reading the paper. But I had to do that at every step, or I started to get and there were a lot of people calling. And we would tear through about 9,000. I'd get back maybe a couple hundred of every paper. And of course, I wouldn't recycle them unless they were real crappy looking. And you'd get that too. Nothing. Most of the time, it made me happy. Sometimes it was irritating to open up one of those red boxes and see a scrambled up copy of the paper sitting on top, because that meant somebody read it and they decided that they wanted to leave it for the next person. Very rarely did I find anything wadded up or tossed. There was a lot of respect for that paper. And for me personally, it really reinstilled my love of comics, because when I started the paper, I was very anti Diamond and had my fill of them. In fact, I'd been out of the direct market for a few years with my own apparel business here in Flint. And when the opportunity rose to do the paper, it was cool. We found a lot of advertisers right off the bat, and maybe only 30% of them actually came through to start with, until everybody started seeing what it looked like. And there was a period there of a couple of years where we were doing really good with it, right before the water crisis happened here in Flint. And then it really became a struggle. So I ended up bumping the paper down to bi-monthly, and still had people I was still getting back just as many as I was putting out, sometimes even less. There were a couple of issues that we didn't get anything back on, nothing. Everything was dry and everybody was begging for the next issue. But towards the end, there was a little bit almost every month that was popping out of my savings in order to cover the print bill. Just a little bit, just enough to be a kind of a hassle. And I realized that if we didn't stop it soon, it was going to deplete, whatever little savings that I had. So we stopped it at issue 100, which meant there was a total of a million copies that are out there in our area. And literally it was in a 50-mile radius of the middle of Flint that we circulated through. We stretched from Davison to Owasso, from Birch Run to Holly. And you'd almost have to look on a Michigan map in order to see it. But Flint was the center. You draw out about 20, 25 miles and draw a circle, and that's where we were at. But we had people within a 50-mile or so radius. I mean, probably more than that, probably closer to 75. We had a shop in Lapeer, a shop in Owasso, that were also advertising in the paper because it drew people out there. And the big thing for me is that it really showed me that people out there want to read comics. They desperately want to be entertained, and if you can get it to them at an accessible price point or in an accessible way, they will eat it up. And that's everybody. I would say there was a very small percentage that didn't enjoy the paper, because I put all sorts of different strips in it.
Now, in the area like that, in that 50-mile area, how many comic stores did you have?
At the time, there were 3. We had 3 here in Flint. There was one in Lapeer. There was one in Owasso. There was one in Fenton. We had one in Clio for a very short period of time. There was one in Saginaw. We could never get the other one in Saginaw to ever advertise with us. But that was out of our distribution area. This is what the paper looked like. It was that size. And the cool thing about it is, because it was newsprint, didn't have staples on it, didn't have a slit cover on it, our printer kicked it around within 24 hours. If I had the files to him by 5 o'clock, he had copies sitting at my distribution point by 3.
Right.
And right up at my distributor the next day. And he would apologize to me, which I always found weird, if he couldn't make it within 24 hours. He always said, hey, we're sorry, we're really backed up, or we're expecting some more of that certain quality of newsprint to come in. and we'll have it there next day. And I'm like, my connection's name was my printer liaison was Todd. I said, Todd, dude, I'm used to working in comic books. We're happy if it gets turned around in 2 weeks. So, thanks for letting me know. I'll wait another 24 for it, And it folded out like a regular newspaper. And sometimes, like issue 100, I folded it out an extra amount, so it was big. It was about the size of a old style movie poster. In fact, I put a poster in it just to celebrate our 100th issue that had all of the different characters that we had. And you can't see that very good. I would have to, let me pop that up there. Boom. In order for you to see the entire poster, it had all of the characters that we printed over the years in there. And we were running syndicated strips like Flash Gordon and Prince Valiant, as well as, like I said, all the local talent that was in there.
Now, have you ever considered actually putting a couple of those copies, if not the whole run, into the Smiths?
No, and I'll tell you why. Because they're not interested. My local library, when I offered copies to them for them to archive, they scoffed at me and said, no, we don't do that here. So we don't have the money to afford to do that. And they had a hard enough time archiving the local daily newspaper because they just didn't have the grant money in order to do it. So they didn't even keep track of the last couple of political papers. And there was a time back during the 60s and 70s that Flint was the hotbed for a lot of politics because we were the starting point for the UAW here. Michael Moore came out of here and started his career doing a political paper called the Flint Voice, which turned into the Michigan Voice.
I want to comment real quick. Meredith says she lost us on YouTube, but I checked YouTube. We're still up.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I'm looking too. I'm seeing us. We haven't done anything to get kicked off. We've been real well behaved, actually, to be honest with you all. I don't know why YouTube haven't. There has been StreamYard issues throughout the day. Maybe it has something to do with that. We seem to be live. Sorry. You guys are having a problem. If anything, let me see. Maybe we'll kick off someone and we'll switch over to a different YouTube channel because we still have the 14 15 people watching, so I'm gonna remove it and I'll add in
I'm sure it's fine. I'm looking at it. It says it's fine, but yeah
I added Geek Insider if you guys want to go over there to their YouTube channel as a secondary just in case anything does happen. Part 2 will be there. We didn't take it off of IndieVolt. I took it off of a page on Facebook that we barely interact with, but hopefully you guys can see us. We're going to continue though. But Randy,
yeah, we're still alive and running on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing that, Randy. That's pretty badass that you did that. I think you should still ask to submit it to the Smithsonian because they're starting to actually give a crap about comics. Did you guys hear about the Hall of Fame? Not Hall of Fame, the Museum for Comic-Con? That might be a place to think about giving it to too, Randy.
Who? What?
They're doing a museum for Comic-Con.
The Comic-Con museum that they've been running for like the past 2 or 3 years. They're beginning to be serious about that too.
I know we're archived at the Michigan State comic library. He collects one of everything that's comic related, wherever he can find it, and that's everywhere in the States. I think probably everywhere in the world. They have a ever growing collection there that he boasts is about as complete as it possibly can be. So I know he's got copies.
Mm-hmm. All right, someone else is going to play dirty cop now for this thing. Who wants to do that? Randy, you're in charge now. Comments
about what?
The Czar.
Rob, me and Varian are going to head out.
Oh, okay. Later.
We're having some computer problems, and he's not having a good time right now. He's in some pain, so he has to leave.
Yeah. Tell him the rest. Randy will take over. Randy will be the bad cop. Get your glasses on.
I'll see you guys later.
Have a good night.
All right, take care. Take care, Krista. We'll see you.
All right, Randy. Comments are your responsibility now.
I don't even know where you left off. All I see is Meredith and Rodney. Just what I've seen.
Yeah, just pick anything. It doesn't really matter.
See Michael Lansing. No, I know you covered that one. He's talking about Silverline Comics. Silverline is awesome. Though I don't know. It seems kind of odd that they're doing 2 issues at once, but it's all cool. whatever works for them works for, you know.
There's no wrong business plan as long.
That's right. Like right now, especially in the alternative and independent market, it's pretty close to the Wild West. Whatever you can sell, whatever you can get. You know, there is no real standard. And I know that's your topic tonight is what your page count is your standard, and it's I would say whatever the market will bear.
Yeah, Joe Rodriguez is a big fan of that. He says, try it. If the market wants it, it'll allow it. If it doesn't want it, you'll get kicked out for it. Or
Rogue, we are live on YouTube. I just checked. We're there.
Okay, so yeah, I don't know where that's coming
from. You may have to reboot your system. Yeah, I don't know where that's coming from. Facebook, I'm not sure about, but I know we're there on YouTube. We still have 11 watchers.
And we did lose the comments, I think, from YouTube. So there were a few more, and they said, I don't know, StreamYard, you know, because of COVID.
Yeah, you know, COVID. I'll jump over to YouTube and see if there's any comments that I haven't seen.
Okay, yeah. So, and because I thought Meredith had some other stuff there, and I don't see it anymore. It's suddenly gone.
So, Rob, let me ask you a question.
Uh-oh.
Right. So now we're talking about, you know, page counts and all that jazz. You understand? Because there is a big difference between page counts between books that are being released by creators through, let's say, you know, whatever campaign site you want to use, right? Whatever crowdfunding site you're going to use. And also there's a difference between what you're going to be releasing through Diamond, right? So, you know, Diamond, they're going to be very strict about it, 24, 32, 48 pages. They're not going to play any games with you. You understand? You have no choice. You're going to play by their rules. You understand? And the thing is you know, where does that cross over? You know what I mean? Between campaigns, crowdfunding, and something like Diamond and distribution.
You should already be thinking of that. You should always be thinking about where you put in your customers' hands. Because I know that there are books going to Diamond that are 20 pages. They have to say they're 20 pages when they go there. Mm-hmm. I'm sure Diamond will force them to charge less for it and tell them flat out, you have to charge less. Same as Diamond will tell you if you have a black and white interior book, you have to charge less. Mm-hmm. There are standards that Diamond will tell you what you have to do. And you need to consider that if you're planning to go to Diamond. I mean, look, no one's going to make this easy for you. You might as well make the decisions up front how you're going to do this. It's always going to be different because when you go to Diamond, you can print more. Your price point's going to go less. Like Joe was talking about. Joe's making a buck on a book right now. But if Joe can get a large enough order and he gets a bigger print run, he takes that $1, he gets $2 on a book. He doesn't have to change his price point. He's actually perfectly, if anything, I agree, he's underselling it. For his 52-page book right there, I would be pricing at least at $8. But that's just me. That's how I would price it. Plus, I'd give it a nice cover because 52 pages, that's a nice thick book. That has got some weight to it. Get that nice little stronger cover. You got a $10 book right there. So, I mean, I see your point, but as a creator, you already got to be thinking of that. And if it's your first print run and you're doing the what do they call it? The self cover, the shelf cover, I've heard it, the standard cover. If you're doing that versus a nice cover, because my books, I like this cover. Look at that. Look, it doesn't bend. You know what I mean? Like this will hold up.
Like a cardstock cover, yeah.
Yeah, this is nice. And I tell people, you get a book like that. You can read it. You don't got to bend it. You don't feel anything. People pay a little bit more for quality. That's why Starbucks works. When you're at a table, you have to convey that your book is quality. If you go, I have a 16-page book, you're already, you know, like unless you're
pretty thick.
There it goes. Thick. Here, let's put you up on the main board screen. 16-page book that would fold in his hand right now. Like if that was 16 pages, it'd be bending and it'd look like loose leaf paper. Mm-hmm. You know? You can hear Jack's crying in the background. That's just him. He's fine. But yeah, that's nice and thick. But like, you know, like I'm saying, if you have like a 16-page book, it'll look more like that. That'd be a 16, you know, it'd be limp and stuff. And yes, another word that just fits so well.
Another opportunity for a limp joke. Anybody out there seen the Unforgettable book from All Caps Comics? That's a reprint of the Cyberfrog material that has fresh colors and fresh lettering on it. He went through and reprinted that book, and I swear it's on thin Bristol board for interior pages. That thing is thick. You hold that in your hand, it's, you know, it's really stiff. But I was very surprised at the feel of it when I picked it up, that it was so thick. And also the Allegiance Arts books, if anybody has seen those in the Walmarts, those almost feel like a more of a material than a paper.
Yeah.
On their pages, because they're made to be more durable, because they know they're going to be sitting on a shelf and probably mangled by a couple of Walmart patrons before anybody gets it in their hands. And it's a lot harder to knock those books out of collectible condition.
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty impressed with both of those products.
Yeah, it feels like a piece of Tyvek, the paper. When you feel it, it feels like Tyvek. It was just really weird.
Yeah, it's almost like sometimes it's almost like a thin leather.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I love
but
those
it's
books.
good. I mean, I like it. I like the way the books look. They hold color real well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the same thing with the Frog. The Frog reprint books are incredible. Well, Kyle Baker is in my opinion, one of the few really gifted colorists that's working on the market right now, because all his stuff, I think, I have yet to see a page from Kyle where I would think is just marginally bad. But those books are amazing. The way that they hold color, and the way that they look, and the way that they feel. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I come from the old school, where I would rather see something. I think they're missing out on an opportunity of getting books in the dollar store on newsprint in black and white, and just stick them out there in a thicker volume book, almost like the puzzle books that are out there, especially Marvel and DC. They don't have any respect for their older material anyway. They might as well print it nice and cheap and stick it out there for $1 for people to buy,
Yeah, I've always been surprised that they don't reprint the stuff like a newsprint, like a nice 100, 200 page book, $5, like because we have Five Below, and stick them in there.
Well, they had been doing the showcases.
Mm-hmm.
The showcase presents and the essentials, and those were amazing books.
Oh, yeah,
but for some reason, they couldn't move them very far. The retailers weren't moving along with them. They might have been a little too thick. You go the half of that size for $10, or a third of that size for $5. You could kill on the market.
Yeah.
But really something saddle stitched like the puzzle books that you see when you walk into the dollar store. If they were moving some of the old classic Marvel material like that, from the 60s and 70s, I think they do real well. And they did that for a little while over in England. I've got some awesome English reprints. They ran through the Marvel universe about 4 times over in England, and they would print them flat and wide, rectangular, and they'd shrink down 2 pages on a page. So when you opened up the magazine or the paper, it had a regular comic book cover, but it was newsprint interior in black and white. When you open it up, there were 4 pages of material there.
Right.
And they burned through their entire library like 4 times over, every time in a different format. Wow. That during I would say the 90s, the 80s, probably the 80s and 90s, right as they started doing Captain Britain over there.
Because I mean, the thing is indie publishers, I think this is one of the things a lot of people don't think about is that the way I look at my work and what I'm producing, I look at it, there's an apple, right? And it's on a string and it gets tossed and everybody gets a chance to bite at it, right? Mm-hmm. I try to get as many bites out of that apple as I can. So, you're looking at, you're looking at printing as a comic book and then printing it as a trade and maybe as a hardcover, right? So that's, the basic, what people do. I'm looking at it as I'm producing it in black and white. Then I'm going to produce it, as a trade. I'm thinking currently I'm producing it in black and white. Then I produce it with an alternative cover. Now I'm thinking of maybe going through Diamond again. Sticking that toe in that water. I don't know. I'm really, hesitant, but we'll see. But using that as an extra revenue stream, then put out a trade, then move it into color, and then so on and so forth. Sure. And I think these are one of the things that a lot of indie publishers don't think about, that you have to try to repurpose your material and keep it out there and keep it fresh. Tall Tales, I printed it, the first 3 issues myself. I went through a publisher. They printed the 4 issues after that. And then we were in furlough for about 60 issues. I mean, we were in that thing for a long time. and she could only put it in there for 5 or 6 pages, 5 to 8 pages per issue, because it was an anthology. And we were at the time the longest running strip in there before we pulled it out. And for no reason at all. I mean, it was just one of those things, a decision we had made. We had just pulled it out, and then we just went back, started reprinting them. We got all the way up to issue 12 with Diamond. Then we started printing trades, and now we have our omnibus. You understand? You have to constantly reinvent the work to constantly put it out to try to generate capital. So I think that's one of the things a lot of people don't think about.
Yeah. And if the mainstream were to look at it like that, I think we'd have a lot larger market.
Oh, yeah.
Because if it was a lot more accessible out there, because I can tell you with my paper, I had people of all ages. Everybody was reading that book except for the folks that don't have a sense of humor. And there's a small section of populace out there that do not have a sense of humor, that just hate comics. Yep. Oh, it's comics. Ugh, I don't read that. But we had just about everybody reading that paper.
Yeah, man. I mean, like Sam, you're putting out a Kickstarter when?
The 26th.
The 26th. I mean, what are you looking to do with that?
That's the first issue. It's gonna be a collected trade paperback, but we're doing the first issue on the Kickstarter, and then we're gonna follow up with the second Kickstarter, which is the second issue a few months later. So the goal is to have it completed by spring, and then start right after that on the trade. Nice. So it's just gonna be issue 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the trade.
Yep. Are you gonna be doing that in color or black and white?
Color.
Nice.
Yeah, we're gonna do it in color, and between 24 to 32 pages, no less than 24.
Now is that 24? That's actually 28 pages, or 32? That's actually 36 pages.
It's 24 interior pages.
Gotcha.
Just to make that clear.
Just to make that clear. Yes.
Yeah, 24 story pages. Minimum, because when we were fleshing it out, some of the other issues will be longer. But the first issue, it is 24.
Gotcha. No, that's awesome, man. I mean, I'm old, so I don't know how you feel about it, Randy. Because I hear 32 pages, and I'm just thinking 32 pages interior. That's how I always view it. I hear 64 pages. 64 pages on the interior. I don't think of the cover.
Right.
Unlike those young people like Rob.
But those old 100-page super spectaculars, and the one that they were selling in Walmart for a while, they were 96 interior with 4 exterior, or 100 pages.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there you go. There you go. I mean, Joe, what's the frequency you release your books at, man? Because that's a lot of pages to be putting out, man.
The prime time Saturday night is like once every 6 months. Because it takes a long while to, not really the script, but to actually render the pages here. But the next thing that's coming out is on my Kickstarter on the 18th for the Amazonia 10th anniversary edition here. So we're kickstarting that on the 18th here. The reason being is that we made a mistake with our first Kickstarter campaign. We actually Kickstarted for issue number 6, and a lot of people up here was like, well, what about issue number 1? So we had to rush and make it here for issue number 1. So I never really introduced the series to the Kickstarter audience from the very beginning. So now we're going to come back and relaunch everything from the very beginning. So we're doing the 10th anniversary number 1, which includes an out-of-print version. It includes the out-of-print version of the original Amazonia number 1, where I did from a sketchbook back in 2008. So you have the current one that's on the market, plus the original number 1 from 2008, plus a couple of pinup artwork in this issue here.
And Joe, tell them where they can find you, because I'm getting people saying they can't even comment on YouTube. So we're just going to close the show a little early tonight. So
I haven't seen a comment in quite a while, Rob.
Yeah, something's clearly up in the internet land, so we're going to close that right now.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you can find our books here at c2cstudios.com here. So if you go out to CGC Studios, it will bring you to our company webpage here. If you go directly to our online store, you can find these books here. At least not the 10th anniversary ones as of yet. We're going to wait until after the Kickstarter before we put it on our website here. But this is the variant version of this one. And we have one more variant version coming as a stretch goal. And that one is going to be pretty much given to everybody for free if we hit our stretch goal. But this is the one that you have to actually get on a particular tier here, as well as the sketch covers. So you can find us there. You can find me on Facebook as Joe D. McPhee, or on our company page for Exigency Studios. I'm also Silverbolt 14 on DeviantArt, as well as Silverbolt on Instagram. I think that's everything.
Sam, go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me on crazycomics.com. That's CRAZEE comics.com. And also my YouTube channel is Catch the Craze. I'm on all social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Catch the Craze. It's Catch DA. Catch the Craze. And that you'll find my podcast, and on crazycomics.com you'll see information about the Kickstarter that we're going to launch on the 26th for Catch the Crazies.
Very, very cool. JD, you're up.
Well, I can be found at JD Calderon on Facebook, YouTube. You can also find me at theoswaldchronicles.com. I currently have a Kickstarter running for the Oswald Chronicles, so you can go check that out. Got another 48 hours on that, so thank you so much.
And here, we'll actually play a bump for you real quick.
Hello, everyone. This is JD Calderon, the writer and creator of the Oswald Chronicles, and today I'm here to tell you about the final installment of the Clive cycle of stories, where Oswald finds himself taking care of a lost one-eyed Cyclops angel babe named Clive. In these two issues, called Clive's Tale, we see Oswald take advice from ancient gods and witches that lead him to the depths of hell to retrieve Clive's enslaved parents. Oswald will also have to confront the major lord of these lands, but will he ever be the same again? These two issues are wonderfully illustrated by Jade Gonzalez and colored by David Montoya. Along with these two issues, we are also offering a one-shot called It Came Seeking Me, where an ancient evil seeks Oswald out for his help, with illustrations by Matt Lunsford. Go check out the various rewards we are offering and pick the one that best suits you. By backing this campaign, you help support the greatest mouse adventure going today, the Oswald Chronicles. Thank you.
All right, JD.
Awesome.
Randy, you're on the hot seat.
That was a hard cut. Hey, anybody who wants to talk to me, please talk to me through Facebook. PM me. I'm there under Randy Zimmerman. I am under Randy Zim on Twitter, but I don't twit very often. Other than that, you can check me out on the Zim Geek channel, ZIMMGEEK, on YouTube, where I put videos up there from time to time. And of course, I'll be back here on Indie Volt on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. on the Indie Volt podcast, Thursday mornings at 9 a.m. for the Breakfast Buzz, and especially on Sunday morning. I'll be back tomorrow morning at Sunday 9 a.m. for the Sunday Funnies, where they talk about the more lighthearted and whimsical side of comics and have some fun.
Now, everyone, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you have any comments or concerns about this program, please send us something at theindieDevil.com. That's indie spelled right, INDE, devil at gmail.com. I'm such a kid. I love saying Yahoo because of the commercials. But you guys can reach out to us. We're always around to hear. Sorry that this show got a little messed up with the YouTube thing and comments and all that. But I think we had a great discussion. I thank Randy. I thank John. I thank Varian. I thank the Indie Princess, JD Calderon, JD McPhee. And of course, the host, Sam. What is it?
The Crazy Man.
The Crazy. So it's Sam the Crazy Man. There we go. There we go. All right. So you guys have been super awesome. Thanks for hanging out. We're going to talk more about industry standards throughout the entire month of September and October until we go into the winter month of November. Because November is cold. It's just November. So that'll be winter. And that's it, guys. I'm going to quickly get us out of here because I don't know what's going on with all the stuff around. So with that, I bid you adieu for the evening.